major shakeup in the cabinet of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., with the resignations of Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin and Budget Secretary Amenah Pangandaman. Both officials have been linked to the flood control scandal. Meanwhile, Senator Imee Marcos makes a controversial speech against PBBM. Good morning. I'm Attorney Jimeno, and this is At the Forefront. The flood control scandal continues to hound the Marcos administration. Many see the resignations of Bersamin and Pangandaman as the start of a cabinet revamp. Meanwhile, another bombshell accusation hurled by the president's sister, Senator Imee Marcos. Speaking at the Iglesia ni Cristo rally, she accused the first family of being drug addicts. PBBM has also been previously linked to the flood control scandal by former lawmaker Zaldy Co. Can the Marcos administration withstand all these allegations? Let's find out from UST Political Science Professor Froilan Calilung. Good morning, Professor Froilan.
Good morning, Attorney Karen, and good morning also to our televiewers.
Okay, ang dami na namang ganap.
Yeah.
Meron akong kaibigan nag-text this morning, sabi niya, maaga lang ako natulog, pagising ko, ang dami na palang nangyari.
Yeah, actually, last Sunday, I think we were talking, and I thought the focus of our would-be discussion would just be the bombs that were thrown by Zaldy Co. And right now...
That was Friday,
that was
diba?
just Friday.
Mga sunod-sunod na part 2, part 3. Pero ngayon, ang dami na naman. So, let's start with the INC rally last night. Senator Imee Marcos gave a speech and she accused the first couple, including Congressman Sandro Marcos, of being drug users. Even described Malacanang as a haven for alcohol and drugs under PBBM. How will these allegations impact the presidency, considering everything that's going on with the flood control controversy?
Right. Because Attorney Karen, when we try to look at the possibility of what's going to happen next with all the mass unrest happening, with all these civil movements going around, and of course the economic free fall that we're experiencing at the moment, plus those bombs that were given by former Congressman Zaldy Co. And I think ito yung pinakamalaki ngayon, because I believe that this is not just something na political. It's within the family. And not only did Senator Imee Marcos try to go against the brother, she also went against the family itself, you know. And para sa ating mga Pilipino, yung moral fabric, no, ng isang pamilya.
Yeah, even alleging that the First Lady, Lisa Marcos, and Congressman Sandro offered drugs daw to her kids, according to Senator Imee. So, pero naglabas din ng official statement si Congressman Sandro Marcos saying, among them, that these are all lies, and you can ask my cousins, yun sila, Borgie, and Attorney Mike, and the Governor Matt Manotoc. So, kung tama ka, yung social fabric na ng family, ano ba yung impact nito sa mga Pinoy?
Well, basically, no, napakalaki, no? Kung titignan natin, dahil nga lagi natin sinasabi sa politika, maaring hindi naman talaga yung reality ang mahalaga, kundi yung perception na nabubuo out of what is being said. And right now, itong mga binitawan ni Senator Imee Marcos, I think is very big, catastrophic, I may say, primarily because it goes to the very root of the allegations that are being made against President Marcos for a very long time, no? Kumbaga parang ngayon, parang there is this galvanization, concretization of what we were thinking all along, na tama pala si former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, tama pala yung mga nagsasabi na siya talaga ay addict and that he is unfit to rule. And I think the problem here is not just yung health niya, no, but you know, it really concerns us because when you have a president who is under illegal substances, then I think nandun yung tinatawag nating parang unfit to rule, or yung incapacity niya to govern properly because his judgment, his decision-making, and his overall health is going to be impaired. And it really impacts us as a nation, as a country, for that matter.
Well, in her speech, Senator Imee Marcos also said at some point, habang lulon sa droga ang kanyang kapatid, yung mga nakapaligid sa kanya ang gumagalaw at pinagsasamantalahan siya at ang pera ng bayan. So what was she implying? Was she saying na itong mga nangyari under the administration, including the flood control controversy, is something that PBBM was not aware of?
Well, the thing kasi, and I've mentioned this several in many other interviews, even in the past when he was still running for presidency. I think the thing with BBM is that his demeanor is too soft. To the point that he is really gullible to actually being manipulated by the people around him. And ito nga siguro maaari nangyari ngayon, ano? Especially when, yun nga, if the allegations were really true and you are really under the influence of drugs, syempre yun nga, like I said, yung decision-making mo dyan, tsaka yung governance demeanor mo will definitely be affected. No? The faculties of a person will definitely be affected. And maybe while he is doing this, syempre, yung mga nakapalibot sa kanya found an opportune time for them to be able to lay down their own personal agenda. And maybe this is the reason why this flood control scandal and I believe many other fund-related activities actually went out of hand. And right now, kaya tayo nababaon dito sa ganitong sitwasyon at the moment.
But wouldn't that be conflicting with what Congressman Zaldy Co is alleging na ang mastermind ay si PBBM, na sinasabi niya in-instruct lang siya i-insert yung mga 100 billion pesos worth of projects in the 2025 budget?
Well, ito nga yung binabanggit ng ating maraming kababayan. Ano? If you look at what some of our netizens are saying na kapag ikaw ay lulong daw sa droga, talagang ang unang-una mong iisipin dyan is kung paano ka makakuha ng pera. No? For you to be able to sustain that kind of vice that you're actually into. And I think this is one of the considerations. No? Siguro at that point in time, yung ang sinasabi ko lang dito kasi Karen, is hindi lang naman yung insertions yung governance per se, no, that may be impaired. And I think nakikita naman natin to, no, whenever he's out giving interviews, you see the slurs in the speech, you see the actuations, na talagang kumisan disconnected yung binabanggit niya, no, yung mga sinasabi niya doon sa tinatanong sa kanya. I think these are some manifestations that he may be into illegal substance, like what the sister is saying.
But going back to Senator Imee Marcos' speech last night, binanggit din niya na 67 years old si Ferdinand Marcos Sr. nung na-depose sa government. At binanggit niya rin na ngayon, 67 years old na si PBBM.
Yeah.
But in the end, sinabi naman niya na bongit mahal kita, kaya kong mawala ka sa pwesto pero hindi ko kayang mawala ka.
Yeah.
What do you make of these statements? Is she asking the president to step down?
Yeah. Actually, if you're going to read between the lines of what she's saying, the mere fact that she's asking niya, attorney, parang sinasabi niya, umuwi na tayo. Na para bang isang kapatid na nagmamahal na sinasabi niya, halika na, let's go home, let's fix you kasi may problema ka at the moment, hindi natin kakayanin to nang hindi mo kasama, something like that. So parang I think the insinuation is there, no, na mag-resign ka na, iwanan mo na yan because you cannot rule the country because you yourself, you're physically impaired, and yun nga, maaring mas malubog pa tayo sa hinaharap at maaring ito yung ayaw mangyari ni Senator Imee Marcos. To me, what Malacanang is saying that this is a part of her political agenda, I really don't think so. Because number one, she's a sitting senator, and at the same time, I don't know if she has any plans of running for a higher position. If she does, I don't think she will make it because the Marcos name is already very much tainted at this point. So she stands no chance for a higher position, I believe. So itong binabanggit niya, I think is number one, para talaga kay President PBM as a sister, and number two, for the country, as somebody, as a concerned official na alam niya na hindi nakakayanin ng ating Pangulo na magpatuloy pa sa kanyang panunungkulan.
But if President Bongbong Marcos were to step down, the Vice President would succeed. Yeah. And a lot of people see Vice President Sara as also being allied with Senator Imee Marcos.
Right.
So, pero maraming supporters ng Duterte camp view Senator Imee with suspicion.
Yeah.
But if, let's say, that scenario unfolds where Vice President Sara succeeds as president, Senator Imee Marcos, who is still a Marcos, will be there. So parang win-win situation for a Marcos. So what do you make of that scenario?
And let's not forget the fact that if ever this will be a constitutional succession, the would-be president will have a free hand to actually choose kung sino yung magiging vice president niya. No, maaring kagaya nung nangyari kung naalala natin kay Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, na former president, when she chose yung kanyang vice president, yung Fiso Ginggona. So maaring mangyari, no? But I think right now, ang tignan natin dito is yung malaking kahihiyan, hindi lamang sa Pilipinas kundi sa buong mundo, that you have a family like this and then you went there in that platform saying to the entire country, to the whole world, na yung iyong kapatid ay addict. Sa konteksto ng ating kultura kasi medyo nakakahiya yun. Kaya nga 'di ba marami tayo sa ating pamilya kapag may addict sa atin, talagang kumbaga pinananatili natin siyang sikreto as much as possible. But for you to bring it out in that kind of stage, I think that's something different. And for me, I go way beyond yung sa kanyang political expectations or political ambitions, but I believe this is something that she's doing for the country and for her family as well.
Okay. Well, Undersecretary Claire Castro said that Imee's allegations is a desperate move. And may pag-asa ba itong masalba? Kasi na-mention din ni Yusek Claire na nag-drug test na dati si PBBM. Kung mag-agree ba si PBBM to a hair follicle test na matagal nang hinihingi ng mga tao o yung mga, lalo na ng mga opposition, do you think this will salvage the issue? But before you answer that question, we'll have to take a short break. At the Forefront, we'll be right back. Welcome back at the Forefront, and we're still speaking with political science professor Froilan Calilung. Professor Froilan, Undersecretary Claire Castro said that Imee's allegations are a desperate move. And she also mentioned na nagkaroon na raw ng drug test dati si President Bongbong Marcos. If PBBM were to agree to a hair follicle test, yan yung matagal nang hinihingi ng mga opposition or ng ibang tao for him to do, would you think that would salvage him from this issue?
Well, to some extent it will. But of course, dispelling the drug addiction issue which was surfaced last night, or which resurfaced last night, is a completely different thing from the flood control issue that is being charged as well. So I think if he intends to really salvage with whatever political capital is left of him, I think a public hair follicle test will somehow create a better impression somehow that he is really not into it. But then again, if the challenge is now being given to him, I believe not just by his detractors, but by the entire nation, and maybe by the whole world who is really looking at the developments of what's happening in the country. So if he really would want to dispel this issue once and for all, I think that's a good option.
Well, there seems to be a lot of people previously allied with President Bongbong Marcos that have gone to the other side, meaning have now been part of the opposition against him. Kasama na dito si former Executive Secretary Vic Rodriguez, even yung vlogger Maharlika, and as we've seen, even his own sister, Senator Imee Marcos. But if you contrast this with President Rodrigo Duterte and President Noynoy Aquino, who have mostly kept their cabinet intact until they finish their term, what is your analysis of this? What do you make of this yung situation? Bakit ganun?
Well, we normally say that the president maintains a cabinet or appoints a cabinet member by virtue of trust and confidence. But you need to understand also that cabinet officials are also brilliant men and women. They're also people of integrity, and that they want to keep it. So trying to maintain their trust and confidence to whoever appoints them is also a very important thing for them, because at the end of the day, they also have some kind of political capital that they need to also secure for themselves. Maybe some of them might be running for some future elections, we don't know. And if they will be constantly aligned or allied with an unpopular president, this is something that they would not want. So I believe that it's imperative upon them to actually make that decision, to either stick with the president, an unpopular one at that, or jump ship, or maybe go to remain neutral for that matter. At least they will not be associated with an unpopular president.
Well, just yesterday, Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin and Budget Secretary Amenah Pangandaman resigned. And this was shortly after the Blue Ribbon Committee hearing where DPWH Undersecretary Roberto Bernardo alleged that Education Secretary Trijiv Olivar sought a 15% kickback for Bersamin from around 2.85 billion pesos of infrastructure projects. But Bersamin denied this. But then again, shortly after that, nagkaroon ng mga resignation. So, what do you make of that development? Kasi kung sinabi naman ni Undersecretary Claire Castro yesterday na yung mga resignations daw na ito ay out of delikadesa. Pero maraming Pilipino hindi naniniwalang may delikadesa sa politics in the Philippines. So parang dalawa yung may pwedeng perception here. It's either it is out of delikadesa or meron bang guilt. Do you think yung intention of the resignations achieved a goal of showing delikadesa or na walang kinalaman sa controversy ang dalawang cabinet secretaries that were part of not only Yusek Bernardo's allegations but also kay Zaldy Co because he mentioned also si Budget Secretary Amenah Pangandaman.
But para sa akin kasi pag sinabi natin kasing delikadesa, no, this is a positive trait. No? Unfortunately, like you're right, Attorney Karen, that this is not really a mark of many of our politicians. To be honest, marami na nga sa atin nagpipikit, no? Sinasabi resign, ouster and ever, but they still will cling on and yung nakapito ko pa rin sila sa posisyon. But this one is quite different and it came in the heels of the bombshells that were thrown by Zaldy Co, no? So kung siguro itong mga pagre-resign na to ginawa, no, bago pa nabanggit or nadawi talaga yung mga pangalan nila, knowing for a fact that they are part of the government, baka mas may credibility. No? Pero kasi nangyari ito after their names were already dragged and we don't know exactly if this was a resignation on their own volition or if it was the president who asked them to resign so that they will not be further dragged into the mess. No? So we can only speculate at this point. But what I'm saying is that maganda na nag-resign sila, pero siguro it does not absolve them from any kind of entanglement or indictment later on because nung nangyari itong mga insidente na to, nasa position sila. And they still need to explain this to the public.
Do you think that the choice of President Bongbong Marcos to select former Finance Secretary Ralph Recto to be the new Executive Secretary was a wise decision?
He is still, I think, very much unpopular at this point in time because of the perception that he keeps on, when he was the finance chief, he kept on creating measures to increase the taxation burden of many of the people now. And I think this is something that does not sit well with many of our countrymen. But on the flip side, baka mas makaganda rin, kasi yung papalit sa kanya, hindi puro tax yung nasa isip, no? And right now, that is being given there yung position ng executive secretary, like he mentioned, it's really more of a governance thing, no? Kasi yung sa DOF medyo technical yun no? Hindi ko sinasabi na hindi niya kaya, okay, nagawa naman niya, pero siguro mas maganda rin na nagkaroon tayo ng ibang approach when it comes to our finance chief at the moment.
What about Frederick Go as finance secretary? He is part of a family that owns a conglomerate. So maraming nagpa-perceive na may conflict of interest. What do you think of him as a choice for the new finance secretary?
Well, actually marami naman sa mga itinalaga ng ating Pangulo, no, even before, is may mga conflict of interest talaga. No? To begin with, many of them actually came from well-to-do families. No? But the thing is, titingnan natin as we progress kung talagang meron ba talaga silang poprotektahan na kanilang mga interest, no? But at this point in time, I think it's a fresh start, I believe, no? Especially for the Department of Finance. And of course, every time naman na may balasahan tayo nangyayari sa ating gabinete, tinitingnan natin ito na isang positibong pangyayari and hopefully, no, may maganda talagang kakahinatnan.
Okay, finally, the INC cut their 3-day rally short, saying that they believe they already delivered their message of calling for transparency and accountability. palagi mo paano dapat mag-respond ang gobyerno? Enough ba itong cabinet revamp?
Well, definitely not, Attorney Karen. And I think I mentioned this, that the President should really speak to the public head-on. Talagang public address coming directly from the President. And siguro isa-isahin yung mga allegations. No? Hindi lamang itong allegation about the flood control, itong ipaliwanag din, syempre, itong issue na binanggit ni Senator Imee Marcos. And then ipaliwanag din kung nasaan na ba tayo ngayon in terms of our economic imperatives. You see, because movements like this, no, if it will escalate further, no, I think I'm seeing perfect ingredients, no, for a mass upheaval here. Kasi kung titingnan natin, the economy is really in bad shape. No doubt about that. The current political climate is very, very unstable. Idagdag pa natin yung mga kaliwat kanan ng mga lumalabas, no, kagaya na nangyari kagabi. So I think kinakailangan niya talagang magsalita sa publiko directly. And for us, I think we owe an explanation coming from the Chief Executive for that matter.
Okay. Thank you so much, Professor Froilan Calilung. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much at mabuhay po kayo.
President Marcos is once again accused of being a drug addict. He is also facing allegations of receiving billions of kickbacks from fraud control projects. So far, his allies are still with him, as well as members of the military and the police. The Iglesia ni Cristo's anti-corruption protest has ended, but more rallies are scheduled to be held in the coming days. Will a cabinet revamp help ease the whirlwind of controversy hounding the Marcos administration? We'll be watching. Join us again tomorrow for conversations on issues that matter. I'm Attorney Karen Jimeno. Always stay at the forefront.